get an introduction, you deserve an introduction.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind.
It's okay. I don't mind.
Yes, it's been running a long time.
Well,
Right.
I think people should know that you
I-
are my very dear friend Deva, and that you are the executive director of the Society for Disability Studies. And if anybody knows anything about disability studies, it's going to be Deva. She is the fountain of knowledge and has done amazing work. She's written tons of journal articles, books. She is a mentor to hundreds, if not thousands, of students with disabilities.
You can exaggerate.
No exaggeration.
No, she can exaggerate.
And as you have probably already been able to tell, Deva's speech is not always particularly clear. And so she has a revoicer. That's a term you might not be familiar with, but a revoicer is a person who is able to look at a person's speech, either look at and listen and understand it, and is able to revoice it, usually pretty accurately, especially Tanya, who knows her very well. And so that's the role of the revoicer, and the sign language interpreter will be here soon, and he will be signing what Tanya says, not what Deva says. That might be a little confusing, but that's the way this
Moving on.
Moving along.
Okay, go for it. Tanya.
Deb is asking me to read this.
Yeah.
At the diner my husband likes, because the locals come in wearing overalls and talking cows, the waitress comes over with her coffee pot and starts to serve us in the old-fashioned cups and saucers from which I slurp, as they are much too top-heavy and flat for me to pick up. She says, "I'll just pour you half a cup so you don't need to worry about spilling it. I'll come round and keep refilling it." I respond, "Oh, thank you. Can you make it the top half?"
Okay, so this is kind of what you might learn.
So this is what you might learn.
Read it.
Let me read it. Inclusion is not enough. It is still compensatory. Effort and participation are key. Shall I keep going?
Yep.
Social process, time, space, and context have yet to be well integrated. Accommodation as currently practiced follows a medical model. Affordances should be a group process. And we still don't say what we mean.
Okay. So what is disability studies?
Okay, so what is disability studies?
It is probably not exactly what you think.
It's probably not exactly what you think.
It is not everything about disability.
It's not anything about disability.
Everything.
Sorry, it is not everything about disability.
That is absurd. That would be absurd.
That would be absurd.
So go ahead and read it.
Go ahead and read it.
Yep.
Disability studies starts from the disabled point of view, interrogates ableism, critically thinks about disability in context, welcomes all disciplines, but promotes cross and interdisciplinary work, encourages scholarship that makes a difference.
Okay. So,
Could you say that over? Your screen was frozen.
Okay, starting at the top.
Okay, starting at the top.
It's from our point of view.
It's from our point of view.
So if that's not primary.
So if that's not primary,
It's not disability studies.
it's not disability studies.
And some people
And some people
make a distinction
make distinctions
between disability studies
between disability studies
and critical disability studies.
and
Critical,
physical disabilities.
critical,
I'm so sorry.
critical, critical.
Physical.
No, critical.
Critical.
Critical. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Thank you very much. Some people make distinctions between disability studies and critical disability studies.
And in my book,
And in my book,
all good disability studies is critical.
and in my book, all disability studies is critical. Sorry. There's a little bit of background noise. If anyone is not on the call speaking, if you could please mute your screens. In your book, Deva, could you repeat the next part?
My book, all good disability studies is
All,
critical.
all something is disability studies.
All good
All good.
disability studies
In my book, all good disability studies
is critical.
is critical disability
So
studies.
that's a political statement.
Say it again.
That's a political statement.
That's a political statement.
And so moving on with my what is not disability studies.
And so let's move on with what is not disability studies.
Read.
Read it. Not disability studies starts from the medical service deliverers perspectives, ignores the socio-cultural, economic, political, etc. context of disability,
Come.
comes from a disciplinary silo, does not encourage scholarship that makes a difference.
Go on.
Right.
Go on.
Oh, go on.
Yeah.
Sorry. A study of, these are examples of not disability studies. What is not disability studies? A study of the diagnosis, treatment, or course of a medical problem. A study of an illness biomechanism, a study of an illness biomechanism. A study of a helping profession, comes from a disciplinary silo, is not critical, does not encourage scholarship that makes a difference.
Okay. Go for
Okay. I'm sorry?
Read.
Read. Disability is a concept that grows as we think about it, forcing us to adjust our conversations and vocabulary and rhetoric depending on which disability world we inhabit or address. Understanding disability starts with exposure to disabled people's body minds in their own space-time and an appreciation of disability expertise. The disability justice movement pulls the intersectional performance of disability out of the intimate sphere so that it can play a role in policy, an analytic where study should shine.
So again, a political statement.
So again,
A political.
a political statement.
Yeah. I'm very interested in the nature of knowledge.
I'm very interested in the what of knowledge?
Nature,
I'm very interested in the nature of knowledge.
but ultimately it's solving poverty problems.
But ultimately, But ultimately, it's solving policy problems.
That is important.
Say it again, please.
That is important.
That is important.
Okay, words.
Okay, words.
There are so many.
There are so many.
I will go through some of this.
I will go through some of this.
My overall approach
My overall approach
is that when you write
is that when you write
and when you write in scholarly articles
and when you write for scholarly articles
and when you write for students,
and when you write for students,
you should be as clear and as consistent
there should be a clear and consistent
way of using words.
way of using the words.
So we have more than two,
So we have more than two,
but primarily two
but primarily two.
approaches to words.
I didn't get that.
Approaches.
I'm sorry.
Approaches.
We have approaches.
First
Person first
and disability first.
and disability first.
If you are in the UK,
If you are in the UK,
you cannot have a problem
you cannot have a problem
choosing.
choosing
They use disability first
because they use disability first
term.
terms.
In the US,
In the US,
non-academic world
the non-academic world
does not make the kinds of decisions that words
does
But-
not
make
make
the kinds of decisions
the
that
kind of distinctions
I make.
that I make.
So I'm off the scale
So I'm off the scale
when it comes to being precise.
when it comes to being
Precise.
precise.
So if you're using person first,
So if you're using person first,
the most natural thing people will respond to
the most natural thing people will respond to
is, oh, what is your
is, oh, what is your disability?
Okay, here, I have mine. You want it? Here, it's
Okay, here, I have mine. Do you want it? Here it is.
here. And you turn it around
And you turn it around.
and talk about it as a person.
As an example,
Disabled person.
as an example of a person,
The first thing to think of is, oh, how is the person disabled?
the first thing you think of is, how is this person disabled?
How, why, where, when?
How and why, where, when?
And you may not care about history,
And you may or may not care about history,
but asking is about function of environment.
and I didn't hear that term.
When
What
you
was that?
ask is about functional impairment.
But something is about functional.
You're asking.
Okay, but you're asking about functional impairment.
So when you use person first, like
So when you use person first language,
someone may answer, oh, I have CP.
someone may answer, oh, I have CP,
Oh, by the way,
which I don't, by the way,
but it's a good guess.
but it's a good guess.
Yeah, if it says it was first,
If you,
I mean, disabled
if you say I'm a disabled person,
you're more go ahead, ask how
the
and get asked how.
you get asked how.
Oh, well, my speech
Oh, well, my speech
and my mobility.
and my mobility or movement,
Yeah,
my movement.
yeah. So I don't use person but
So I don't use person first
I
language.
don't know. Please,
I keep losing you. You're asking me to read?
Yeah.
Words. My ideas depend on a largely temporal distinction between impairment and disability, although not in a classic biology/society dualism. Both are socially constructed. Here, I do differ from others who collapse or interchange impairment and disability because their community does. In disability studies, we debate, or passionately refuse to debate, binary word choices, such as the long-standing argument between disabled person and person with a disability, or people versus identity first language.
yeah, look. Okay, so okay. So disability in the singular,
So disability in the singular
you give you lots of room to
gives you lots of room to
think.
think.
In the plural,
In
the plural,
the plural,
you're immediately commenting,
you're immediately commenting.
Counting.
Excuse me. In the plural, you're immediately counting.
Oh, why is it plural? So, no.
Oh, it's a plural. So now,
If you want to know
if you want to know
all of someone's diagnoses,
all of someone's diagnoses,
sure, use the plural.
sure, use the plural.
I don't care what the diagnosis.
Except I don't care. Except I don't care about the diagnoses.
I care about process.
I care about process.
And I care about time.
I care about
Time
time
and process.
and process.
So I use this.
So I use disability.
Okay.
Students learning about disability studies want to be told which is correct. I eschew the word police in favor of conversations about meaning. To avoid offense, we can talk about disability without using either disabled people or people with disability. None of my choices are for variety, none of my choices are for variety, honoring, or not offending. I understand I am a person first. I have traits that are socially marked as, quote, impairments, as perceived by others, not as lived by me. Once perceived, impairment is a route to disenfranchisement. I am quote, disabled by that perception. I become a, quote, disabled person precisely because my personhood is disabled by attitudes toward my perceived, quote, impairments.
Okay.
I also eschew all of the overused wordplay such as dis/ability, dis/ableism, able-disabled, able-disabled, and challenged, even if it is not gratuitous. I do not use, quote, disability in its noun form comfortably, except as a name for an experience. I particularly avoid, in quotes, disabilities. Concretizing disability as something plural or with a range of severity seems so divisive that I will restructure a sentence entirely to avoid it. I acknowledge that my socially perceived, in quotes, impairments are multiple, as are the barriers I face and the contextually appropriate accommodations I expect, but disability is a unifying experience.
What? Disability is a unifying experience.
Right? Disability is a unifying experience.
This
Poem
comes directly out of a friend interviewing me.
This poem comes directly out of a friend interpreting me.
Interviewing me.
Say that again.
Interviewing me.
Interviewing me. My disability is that when I walk into a room, everyone in that room who can see or hear labels me as disabled and treats me differently because of how I look and how I move. Because of how I sound, I am instantly set apart, and that is my disability. I can't blend. I can't hang out in the background. I am always visible. I'm on display. And of course, my reaction is if everyone is going to stare anyhow, let's give them something to look at. Kasnitz, 2020.
Okay. In terms of theory,
Okay, in terms of
theory,
in terms of theory
and academic traditions,
and academic traditions,
these are some of the dominant models.
these are some of the disability models.
They are all individualized.
They are all
Individualized.
They are all individualized.
That none of them says a word about group process.
That none of them says a word about group process.
None of them give you a hint that solutions can be shared.
I'm going to give you a hint that
No, none of them talk about shared solutions.
none of them talk about shared solutions.
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Go ahead and read it. Disability individual models. In quotes, treats, in quotes, manages, in quotes, protects individual at a base level while creating an admin heavy industry.
we got a huge industry.
I'm sorry.
We have a huge industry
We have a huge industry
of people who supposed to help us,
of people who supposedly help us,
for which they get paid
for which they get paid,
well,
for which they get paid well,
which is not bad
which is not bad
if there was a minimum national income.
if the laws,
If there was
if there was
a minimum national income.
if there was a minimum national income,
As opposed to paying 5 times what some service need costs.
as opposed to paying 5 times what
Some service need cost
some service needs cost
in salaries.
in salaries.
No, you can't have it.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
No,
To tell you no, you can't have it.
if you want a $500 computer,
You can't have a what, 500?
computer,
Can't have a $500 computer.
but the offices that process that request
But the offices that process that request
earn $5,000.
earn $5,000.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Accommodations and affordances. The concept of accommodation currently enshrined in American regulation is a problem. It both over-individualizes and overgeneralizes. Ignoring community accommodation, it places the burden on the individual to give up one's affordance in order to get others, while it generalizes building codes as if all wheelchairs were the same height. It is about others demanding that you change to be disabled their way. For example, in academia, a student's most common accommodation is extra time, free to the school. What is the most valuable thing we have in life? Time. What is the last thing most employers want to offer as an accommodation? Time.
Okay, so instead of all these individual models,
Okay, so instead of all of these individual models,
there are a group of social models
there are a group of social models
that look at people in context,
that look at people in context,
that understands that different cultures have different definitions of
That
parents.
I'm so sorry,
No,
that understands that different cultures have different definitions of
parent
impairment
and disability
and
disability.
disability.
And in most cases,
And in most instances,
we're talking about disabilities that may change.
and in most instances, we're talking about disabilities that may change,
But will never go away.
I'm sorry again,
but will never go away.
or that will never go away.
But
Oh, sorry, excuse me, but will never go away.
so this is why
So this is why
curing
curing,
is not on the agenda.
so this is why curing is not on the table.
And somewhere along the way, we have to balance opportunity with accommodation.
And was it along the way?
Yeah.
And how along the way we have to balance opportunities with accommodations.
That's not currently done.
That's not currently done.
So there are lots of such other models.
So there are lots of these social models.
I'm not going to discuss them all.
I'm not going to discuss them all.
I'm not even have time to read it.
We don't have time
To read it.
to read them.
The British social model
The British social model
is the oldest
is the oldest.
and something thing is the only one.
And some people think it's the only one.
Not.
It's not.
There are all these other kinds of models
There are all sorts of other kinds of social models
that come from different disciplines.
that come from different disabilities. I'm sorry, disciplines. There are all sorts of other kinds of social models that come from other disciplines.
From psychology, from philosophy,
I'm sorry again.
from psychology,
From psychology, from philosophy,
or history,
or history.
etc. As an anthropologist,
As an anthropologist,
to look at this list,
to look at this list,
these are all different approaches just by anthropologists.
these are all different approaches just by an anthropologist.
So that there is the plethora, this wealth
So there is this plethora, this wealth
of ideas about how to analyze
of ideas about how to analyze, I'm sorry,
and expand on your goals.
and expands on
On your goals.
I'm sorry,
On goals. Your goal.
your goal. It depends on your goal.
And of course,
And of course,
academics.
at
Academics. Academics.
and of course, academics.
Get famous. Get famous
That famous
by attaching the name.
by attaching their name. And of course, academics get famous by attaching their name.
So it's definitely on as well. So read this.
So read this. Goals of this project: to create a model of impairment-disability committed to the inherent value of human difference and of equal access to social, cultural, and material goods. To create a model that enables us to recognize, map, and analyze disability oppression in diverse cultures. To develop our model incorporating socio-political, cultural, ecological, and existential phenomenological, forgive me, theories of impairment-disability to create a processual, temporal, spatial, and contextual model of impairment disability.
Now, this is not simple.
Now, this is not simple.
I do not expect everyone to even have this vocabulary.
I do not expect everyone to even have this vocabulary,
But it's giving you a feel for the diverse
but it's giving you a feel for the diversity
and sense of where do you put emphasis.
and a sense of where do you begin?
Yeah.
Where do you begin?
The emphasis is on the experience.
The
of
emphasis,
the
sorry, the emphasis is on the experience of the disabled person.
Okay, so now, because we have so little time,
Okay, now we have so little time.
I'm going to go through this
I'm going to go through this
very fast.
very fast.
And it's just want you to get a vague idea
And I just want you to get a vague idea
of the distinction
of the distinctions
I'm making.
I'm making.
And I will post or email you all a copy of this
And I promise I will email you all a copy of this
and some articles I've written that
And-
will all with it.
and some articles I've written.
If you want to put your email in the chat,
Please put your email in this chat, in the chat,
and then I can send it to you
and I will send it to you
directly.
directly.
So, real fast. This is the universe.
This is
The universe. The universe.
this is the universe.
And I just have to take it as an assumption that you all exist.
And I'm so sorry.
I just assume
And I assume,
you all exist.
and I assume you all exist.
And because of my realm
And this is my realm,
of science,
and this is my realm of ethnoscience.
ethno is the people.
And
Ethno is the people.
ethno is the people.
Is the people's science.
It's the people's science.
So within all of ethnoscience,
So within all of ethnoscience,
there are various concepts that talk about the body
there are those concepts that talk about the body
and mind.
and embodiment.
And there are some bodies and minds
And there are some bodies and minds
that are different.
that are different.
And some of those
And some of those
are different in a way that you can identify as an impairment.
and some of those are different in a way that you can identify as an impairment.
And then moving on,
And then it goes on.
I think that you look at the effects
You add the
of
effect
this impairment.
of this impairment.
So you have a problem with your leg.
So you have a problem with your leg.
you can't ride or
So you cannot ride a horse.
then some of this gets classed as disability.
Then some of this gets cast at as disability.
So not all impairment effects are disability,
Not all impairments are cast as disability,
but some are.
but some are.
Now, I throw handicap in there.
Now I'm going to throw handicap in there.
It's an maximum.
It's a
That is it's an old term,
It's an old term,
but it's still used.
but it's still used.
Still it's used.
But it's still in use.
So now it's complicated because fire, 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 fire. Why did it retract?
Fire.
So chronic illness cuts through all of these layers.
Chronic illness cuts through all of these layers.
So when you have chronic illness,
When you have a chronic illness,
there are fit in this category.
you may or may not fit in this category.
So I'm gonna actually skip this part.
Well, I'm just going to skip this one.
Yeah. Okay, so here you are.
So here we are.
All the colors dropped out.
Here we are. All the colors dropped out of the graphic.
And there's a new black box.
And we have a new barred box.
Black box.
Excuse me, we have a new black box.
That is where everything overlaps.
And that's where everything overlaps.
And underneath the ovals,
You cut out underneath the
ovals
underneath the ovals
are the issues.
are these issues.
Do you adjust your culture have?
Do you adjust?
Does your culture have? Does your culture
Does your culture have
exclusionary
exclusionary
and or inclusionary?
Does your culture have exclusionary or inclusionary
Strategies. 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 Strategies.
strategies? I'm so sorry. Does your culture have exclusionary or inclusionary strategies?
And the answer is, here we are.
And the answer is
The black box is where everything
the black box
is where everything overlaps.
The black box is where everything overlaps.
This is where my best students
This is where my best students
go, oh no, this is so complicated.
This is where my best students go, oh, this is so complicated.
I say, if it were simple,
And I say, if it were simple,
why you would be in a class?
you would be,
Why would you be in a class?
if it were simple, why would you be in the class or in my class?
I wouldn't have a job.
I wouldn't have a job.
You know, if it is complicated.
It is complicated.
However, that shouldn't stop you from doing something.
It is complicated. However, that shouldn't stop you from doing something.
So when I look at the lives
So when I look at the lives
of disabled people,
of disabled people,
this is what I'm looking at.
some of it cut out. I think you said, this is what I'm looking at?
Yeah.
This is what I'm looking at.
Looking at how in the lives,
I'm looking at how
in their lives,
how is their lives?
they go through changes
How they go through changes.
and changes in status,
Changes in status,
changes in role.
changes in roles.
Tanya's delightful son, my godson,
Tanya's delightful son, my godson.
we are very proud of him.
We are very proud of him.
He's going off to college.
Is going off to college
He's a full tuition scholarship.
on a
Full tuition scholarship.
on a full tuition scholarship.
And because he is disabled,
And he
because he is disabled,
because he is disabled,
he can get out of living in the overly expensive dormitory.
he gets out of living in the
Overly expensive dormitory.
overly expensive dormitory.
So we hope that this event, this change in status,
We hope that this event, this change in status,
will transform him
will sorry,
into a new role and status.
will transform him into new rules and into new.
Role.
I'm thinking mom is setting these rules right now. If he's going to be this small. We hope that this event will transform him into new roles and status.
So here is the end result.
So here is the
End result
so here is the end result.
of research I do.
The research
I do.
that I do.
So I have looked at all of these categories over here.
So I've looked at all of these categories of
Events, something that,
events
and have mapped them over time.
and I've mapped them over time.
So you can look at, say, education and training.
So you can look at education and training.
So here I am down here in high school, and that goes back there.
I'm sorry.
It goes from high school
So he goes from high school
up to grade school. And I mapped also
and I've mapped
my experiences of disability and impairment
and I've mapped my experience of disability and impairment
and where I fall
and where I fall
in my life
in my life.
and what else was going on. So
And
what else was going on?
and what else was going on.
So here, whoops, here. And go off. Here, you're looking at being out of grad school.
Here we're looking at being out of grad school. She's
Yeah.
out.
With the new there.
With a new, with a speech impairment.
That has a profound impact on my employment and economic life.
So here we were looking at, Deva was just coming out of grad school, which with a speech impairment that had a profound effect on employment.
Yeah. Come on. Back to several. So, what I learned.
So what I learned. Inclusion is not enough. It is still compensatory. Effort and participation are key. Social process, time, space, and context have yet to be well integrated. Accommodation as currently practiced follows a medical model. Affordances should be a group process. We still don't say what we mean. Alone. I, #MeToo, marched in snowy and poor Cincinnati, my first time in the city. I had a blast except for the women who came up to me and blocked my path when I jumped up on the sidewalk to quickly get a better view of the crowd to guesstimate the size. She said, "Are you alone?" Of course, I instantly knew I'd been hit with crap again. Was she embarrassed for me that I seemed alone? Did she think I needed better care? Was I too ugly to be out alone? Here is where I resent my speech impairment. Here are the snappy answers to her silly question that I would have liked to say, "Oh yes," grabbing her arm, "I'm all alone. Will you help me? Will you buy me lunch?" Or, "Yeah, they just let me out of the hospital or jail." Or, "No, but my friends can go without my supervision for a short while if you need my help." I muttered something about gross paternalism and infantilization, forgive me, that she neither heard nor would have understood as I ran to get back in place. I marched backwards and stared at her. Just like that.
Okay. Because in or
I didn't catch that.
did in or
Okay, we did that in an hour.
So this is not light stuff.
So this is not light stuff.
It wanted light stuff in the wrong room.
If you wanted light stuff, you're in the wrong room.
If you can take away you just an overall impression.
If you can take away just an overall impression
That yes, the studies is interesting.
that yes, disability studies is interesting.
And yes, it's very complex.
And yes, it's very complex.
Yes, and there's room for all of us.
And there's room for all of us.
Yeah, if the you will profit from a multitude of voices.
Say that once more.
The profit for a multitude of voices.
The process,
No, we will all profit.
we will all process
from many voices.
from many voices, from a multitude of voices.
Tanya, can you see the chat?
Tanya, can you see the chat? Yes.
I was going to suggest, Tanya, that you read some of the things in the chat, because Deva would really enjoy them, unless she's reading them herself.
Or Laura, if Laura wants you go ahead and pick
Or
out-
Laura, why don't you go ahead and read them?
Okay, bring them up here.
Yeah.
So several people put their email addresses in,
Yeah. Well,
so you can pick up on that.
yeah. I'll see.
And Judy White says, this is amazing.
Good.
And Dee Addington says, the black box, given all the other categories, is like putting a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound and expecting the person with the injury to stop bleeding and getting mad at them when the blood inevitably continues.
That's why we have
That's right.
And then Elaine Kolb says, strangers come up and ask, were you born that way? And Mr. D. Addington says, I once told Diva about the first time parked in a handicapped spot, some dude came up and said to me, you don't look disabled. Diva posits that I wish I had then and mean to use when it happens again. That's funny. You don't look stupid.
Or one of my favorites.
Or one of my favorites.
Oh, thank you. I would work hard on that.
Oh, thank you. I work hard on that.
Right. And then Elaine said, oh no, when I was born, I was much smaller.
Right. Right.
So that those are the essence, those are the comments.
People commonly ask me, oh, disability.
People commonly ask me,
What is your disability?
what is your disability?
If they got gray hair with a blue or violet tinge.
I have gray hair with a blue, excuse me, if they
have blue hair.
if they have blue hair. Gray hair with a white tinge.
Susan and I join you with that.
Right. Before I'm nice to them.
I'm nice to them.
But
So there's one other comment here from
Yeah.
our member from India. And I'm sorry, I don't want to say your name because I might mess it all up. An eye-opener lecture. and it is a very relevant to discuss about and implement the process. Thank you for such a great session. Thank you, organizers, too.
Yeah, well, I'll send you a couple of things I've written.
Well, I'll send you a couple things I've written.
Some of them from
Say again.
some of the you quote.
I'm sorry.
Some of what you read.
Some of you read the quotes.
So, questions, comments,
They're on
questions, comments.
questions and comment. Are there any questions and comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Hi, Deb. It's Rich Sands. So my question is, how much overlap is there between disability studies and the research and the work that you've been doing, and sort of other parts of anthropology and related disciplines? Does the work that you do get referenced by anthropologists in other areas? And do you work with other anthropologists? And how much cross pollination is there between disability studies and the rest of anthropology?
Yeah, I joined the Hospital and Association
I joined the
National
National
Anthro Club, if you will.
the National Anthro Club, if you will,
When I was 18
when I was 18,
and I'm 70.
and I'm 70.
So I am the quintessential example
So I am the quintessential example
of an anthropologist with a visual disability.
I'm sorry, of the
Of an anthropologist.
of an anthropologist with a physical disability. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm the one seeing.
On the
I'm one that everybody can see.
I wonder if I,
No, I am one that have seen.
I am one that has seen.
Anthro has been slow to come to the
Anthro has been, so I'm having,
No.
the connection is really bad right
No.
now, so I'm not getting,
Anthro has been slow.
Anthro has been slow.
Other disciplines have been fast.
Other disciplines have been faster.
There's a couple other questions here.
But
Anthony wants to know if you can explain the distinctions people make between disability studies and critical disability studies.
it's a status thing.
It's a status thing,
There,
in part.
they add the critical to sure that you're looking at it with the most recent progressive kinds of theory and models.
They add critical to make sure that you're looking ahead with the most recent and progressive theories.
There certainly is
There certainly is.
a kind of disability studies
A kind of disability studies
that is not true.
that is not critical.
So if you go into a study of a particular diagnosis
So if you go into a study of a particular diagnosis
and never look at the cultural context,
and you never look at the cultural context,
if you don't include economics
you don't include economics
or politics
or politics
or philosophy
or philosophy.
it's like, okay, so yes, but why, where, and how?
Is that okay? Well, yes, but why, where, when, how?
So to me, all good studies is
So to me, all good disability studies is critical.
just kind of say
Again?
it's a stable thing,
It's a what thing?
stable. It's a play. It's a popular term
It's a popular term.
that you get points for it if you throw it at you.
I'm not following. It's a popular term for a sport if you throw it at me?
Yeah, you throw it at you, you get points. So it's real. The distinction is real.
So the distinction is real, but
It's really about quality.
it's really about quality.
It's more.
So the last question is, how can one take up research on disability studies related to English literature?
Oh, you can talk to anyone of the 500 people doing it now.
Oh, you can talk to any one
Um,
of how many people doing it now?
You can talk to the people. Oh,
You're cutting out.
what kind of English literature?
What kind of English literature?
From what century?
From what?
Century.
From what century?
From last to what?
Well, I would invite our Renuka, our person from India, to unmute herself and ask the question.
Yeah.
This is focusing on fiction.
Well, there are
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Very nice to listen to you, ma'am. I'm very lucky to be a part of this thing. And myself, Renuka from India, and I'm pursuing research in English literature only related to disability studies. Actually, I have taken up the topic like disabled characters in Indian English fiction.
there is a focus. I think
There are a group of folks, would like to introduce you to.
Yeah. Are you aware of the GS hum list?
Are you aware of the DS
Hum.
hum
The
list?
DS dash HUM.
It's DS-HUM list. Are you aware of that?
HUM, humanities, I think. DS means it's disability studies, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they are, they are so generous. With
They are
their-
so
Generous.
generous.
generous. Thank you.
I was posed a question on that list.
I would post a question on that list. They are so generous. I would
But why don't you go ahead and email me?
but
Or
why don't you
email me.
email me?
Or,
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
For the response.
Yes.
Very kind of you. Yes.
we all doing a lot with
We are all doing a lot with
literature.
literature.
And I can help the right people.
And I can help you find the right people.
Anything else?
Anthony, why don't you ask your question aloud?
Sure, no problem. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. Diva, you said disability studies is from our point of view. If it is not disability studies. I'm curious if that means, or if you think that those who work in disability studies must have a diagnosed disability. And I guess I'm wondering here more, is it important to have a perspective sort of from a disability position to really engage in the discourse?
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
Some of my best friends are AVs.
Some of my best friends are
AVs.
able,
Yeah, AV.
Able-bodied.
able-bodied.
It's all about being true to who you are.
You know, it's all about being true to who you are.
And if you're a friend, a parent, you, it's fine to come from that perspective.
And if you are an ally, a parent, a friend,
That's fine.
that's fine.
But it's about you really listening.
But it's about you bringing your listening.
Asking. I want you
I want you
to ask me
to ask me
questions
questions
my life
about my life
that I would not think of
that I would not think of
to ask myself.
to ask myself.
Give me something about myself,
Teach me something about myself,
and I'll love you for it.
and I'll love you forever.
Thank you.
Wait. Elaine says she likes the term NYD, not yet disabled.
I don't
I don't.
know why.
You know why?
It belittles my experience. I don't.
It blurs my disability. Excuse me. Say that again. I'm sorry.
If I use a cane,
If I use a cane,
10 years, again, 10 years from now,
10 years from now,
when I turn 80,
when I turn 80,
that cane will be new to me.
that cane will be new to me.
Which is, however,
Say again. However,
it's not going to change how people basically respond.
however, it's not going to change how people basically respond to me.
If you have never had a physical disability,
If you've never had a physical disability,
and all at the age of 80, you start using a cane.
and I didn't quite catch it, all the changes as you start using a cane?
And the devil is old.
Are you disabled or are you just old?
No, it's not a big deal, you know. It's talk about temporary impairment.
We can talk about temporary impairments.
You know, being in a wheelchair for 6 months
Like being in a wheelchair for 6 months.
after surgery,
Say again?
after surgery,
After your surgery.
some feel for this experience.
Some might mistake that for experience.
It will give you some feel for
I'm sorry, it will give you some feel for the experience,
but it's not what it is. It's
but it's not the same.
very, yeah. And you know, if you live long enough,
If you,
live long enough,
I didn't catch that.
if you live long enough,
If you live long enough,
you may need help,
you may need help,
but it's not the same.
but it's not the same.
There are elements of time.
It's just a moment of time.
A new impairment,
Disabled people
acquiring
acquiring
a new impairment
a new impairment
in the age
in their old age
can sometimes have problems adapting.
can sometimes have problems adapting,
And sometimes, so
and sometimes not. So
I'm very careful
I'm very careful
about assuming that if you're trying to get a law passed,
if we're trying to get a law passed,
then sometimes going up the number of disabled people is helpful.
then sometimes we will
Exaggerate the number of people.
sometimes we'll exaggerate the number of disabled people.
That's helpful.
Say again.
It's helpful. It's helpful.
Which is helpful.
But our society,
But our deciding,
our society,
sorry, our designing,
our society, society
oh, excuse me, our society
had this false notion of scarcity.
has this false notion of
Scarcity.
scarcity.
So if there are too many of us,
So if there are too many of us,
then it's too expensive.
then it's
Too expensive to accommodate us all.
it's too difficult.
It's expensive. Me. Too expensive.
Excuse me. If there's too many of us, it's too expensive to accommodate.
I use whatever I can get away with
I use whatever I can get away with
to make political progress.
to make political progress.
That is fun.
This is fun.
If any of you are teaching,
If any of you are,
I'm happy to share and exchange.
I'm happy to share and exchange.
Services.
I'm so sorry.
Syllabi.
Syllabi. If any of you are teachers, I'm happy to share and exchange syllabi.
And if you don't know about the Society of Disability Studies,
And if you don't know about the Society for Disability Studies,
look it up on the web.
look it up on the web.
And I will give you a free membership
And I will give you a free membership
for the rest of 2020.
for the rest of 2020. Okay?
I have the power.
Because I have the power.
I can do that.
I can do that.
So, can you put my email in the chat?
Yes, Tanya, can you put my email in the chat?
Yes.
SD, sorry, SDS. Say it again. SDS Kasnitz at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay, the connection keeps
Yeah.
basically muting you. Okay, so I've got SDS Kasnitz at gmail.com.
I'm pooped.
I'm pooped.
Okay. So, any last words? Anybody?
Thank you so much.
Deva to bed?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Deva.
Orange.
You're phenomenal.
You know.
I'm always available by email.
Oh.
And if any of you joined late, Deva invited you to place your email address in the chat box because that'll be archived, and she will go ahead and send you the PowerPoint presentation to this in addition to the articles reference that she's written.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody who came. Tomorrow we have a workshop on supported decision-making. And Elaine Kolb has a concert on Saturday. And Sunday, we have the film Intelligent Lives. And you can look at mi-ada.org to see the schedule for every day until the end of September.
Okay.